Okay, so I want to bring to attention something in Matthew 6 that I find to be very interesting. Matthew 6 goes into a lot of examples um, concerning the opposite of what the Pharisaical teachers and leaders were were teaching, right? And the Lord in Matthew 6 talks about a lot of attributes, things that we recognize that the Pharisees were doing in their teaching. Beware of practicing your righteousness before men. He was responding to their hypocrisy, right? Otherwise, you have no reward of your Father. When you give to the poor, do not sound a trumpet, as they would do. They would announce when they would do good deeds, right? So that people could notice and revere them. When you see what he says, it says when you pray, they also would pray loudly. That's why the Lord was speaking, pray in a humble way. And when you are, see right here, and then he talks about, he gives, of course, the Lord's Prayer that gives a template of how to pray, but it's not supposed to be a repetitious prayer. Okay, he says, he talks about forgiveness, forgive others. Okay, he talks about fasting, not to do it in public, as they would often do, announce that they would do that. And then there were issues of money because the Pharisees were well off. And so it says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. He says down here, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And then the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. Okay, so the offenses that come from what you see. But then it says here, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Now, the interesting part that I want to bring up here is Matthew 6:24. It talks about serving two masters. In this case, he's talking about you cannot serve wealth, because up here he's talking about wealth. And in the comparison to what the legalists and the Pharisees would be like in those days, he's indirectly speaking against the ways of the Pharisees. But in this example, he uses wealth because he's talking about wealth, right? But you can apply this to anything else that gets in the way of God, any idolatrous thing that would get in the way of worshiping. He says you cannot serve two masters. I don't care what that is, whether it's sports, whether it's family, whether it's your work, regardless of what it is, it can be placed there. So you cannot serve God and your home. You cannot serve God and entertainment. In this case, he's speaking about wealth as an example. But the same thing we understand as idolatry is anything that would get in the way of your proper attention towards God. Okay, that's just a little tidbit that I wanted to bring up today. Be blessed.
Anchor.fm/DRU News 365.